Today's video is all about this drone right here, which is probably the #1 pre-built, ready-to-fly FPV drone that you can buy right now, and it comes with a brand new version that I want to specifically talk about. But before that, I want to tell you the whole name of this drone, which I specifically wrote down because it's impossible to remember all of it. So this is the iFlight Nazgul Evoque F5D V2 6S HD with the brand new O3 air unit from DJI installed right here on it. Quite the mouthful, but it doesn't matter because the drone is a pretty good one and I want to tell you a little bit more about it. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into it. If you have seen previous iFlight drones, you've probably seen their Evoque series as well, which are pretty unique looking, and mostly because of those side panels right here that are not only meant to look cool because they also light up when you connect the battery to the drone. They light up in that green accent color that the drone has, but they also serve a real purpose, which is to protect the electronics from dust, debris, everything else that might damage the electronics. And you can even fly this drone in a light drizzle, for example, if there is a light rain around and you still want to fly a little bit. Because of that protection, you will probably get away with a couple of minutes of flying if the rain is not too strong. But like I said, those side panels are the #1 thing that you will immediately notice when you unbox the drone, because they are quite unique, and especially when you turn on the drone, it's just super spectacular and it looks really cool, and I really like the look of this drone in general. But looks are definitely not what's most important in FPV. However, this drone also delivers when it comes to the performance. When it comes to the performance, the #1 thing I want to talk about is the VTX, which was installed here, which in this case is the O3 air unit, the brand new air unit from DJI. And you can immediately see with this big camera lens that the frame has been redesigned a little bit so it can fit perfectly this new camera. And of course, also on the back, we have a new way of mounting the air unit, which sits perfectly on the frame. It's not wobbling around. And you have a heat sink on the back to dissipate the heat and keep the airflow constant. When you fly with the air unit O3, it's especially important to keep it cool, because we've seen a couple of complaints for overheating from this air unit. It definitely needs a lot of cooling. So for that, this heatsink is definitely a very much needed upgrade for this frame. And now you can see that it's a very compact but also very well functioning component that has been added to this system. On the back of the frame, we have a built-in XT60 connector, which is another move from iFlight that I definitely respect and like a lot, because it's one less thing to worry about when transporting the drone, when flying the drone. There's less risk of chopping up a cable with the props. Now with this built-in connector, it's not going to move around. It's always there and it's very solid. This XT60 connector also comes with a built-in anti-spark filter, which is a really cool thing. Usually when you connect the battery to the drone, you can see a spark, and there is a risk for your electronics because of that sudden spike when connecting the battery. But here with this anti-spark filter, you are seriously improving the chance of keeping your electronics alive for longer periods of time, and you're limiting the risk of damaging them as you plug your battery in. Just behind the XT60 connector, we have two antennas, the notorious antennas that iFlight uses on all of their freestyle quads. And I still see people confusing the new O3 air unit, thinking that it only comes with one antenna, but that's not the case. It comes with two that you can easily swap and attach longer antennas or attach smaller antennas. It's really up to you what antennas you want to use, but these are the ones that iFlight always uses on their drones, and they're pretty good and also very durable as well, which is quite important. Also, we have these Zinc 2 2207 1750 kV motors, which are some of my favorite motors that I've tested on an FPV drone. They are super smooth, very lightweight, but also super powerful. And especially if you don't put an action camera on top of your drone, the drone becomes a real rocket, because it has less weight to move around, and the motors are quite powerful, like I said. So you can use this drone not only for cinematic purposes, for cinematic flying, but also to combine it with some freestyle. And even if you change the antennas, you can kind of use this with longer antennas for a little bit longer flights. Maybe if you change the arms to 6-inch, you can actually produce a drone that is a little bit more geared towards longer range flights. But iFlight has a 6-inch version of this drone as well. However, it's good to know that you can use these motors for whichever purpose you want. When it comes to the flight controller that this drone uses, it has the Blitz Mini F722 flight controller, and the ESC is again the Blitz Mini E55 4-in-1 6S55 ampere ESC. This is a very good stack that iFlight uses on many of their drones, and I like it because it's not only lightweight, it's powerful, but it's also very durable. So I think it's a good combination for the ESC and the flight controller on this drone. On top of the drone, you have the 2 straps for the battery, and of course you have an action camera mount, which for now I plan to keep empty because I just like the drone so much that I don't really think it needs an action camera on top. Especially with the O3 Air unit, you have 4K 60 frames per second, you have great stabilization, either the built-in stabilization or the one that you can use with GyroFlow. You have great colors, you have flat color profile if you want to color grade your footage yourself. You have a 155 degrees wide angle lens, so you can capture a lot from the area around you. And since this drone has a dead cat orientation on the front arms, you don't see any props in the view of the camera, so this makes it great for cinematic purposes. And one more reason why you really don't need an action camera for it. This is actually the drone that I used for the majority of my O3 Air unit video. I've been using this drone for most of the time because of that dead cat orientation, because you have no props in view, because you have such great powerful motors, such a smooth flight in general. I think this will be probably the #1 drone that I will be using for my FPV needs, unless I need specifically to fly for longer range flights. Then I can use the Chimera 7 V2, which is actually another drone that I will be reviewing here on the channel very soon, so stay tuned for that. But for my regular FPV needs, this is a very compact, powerful, lightweight drone that I think it's about 430 grams if I'm not mistaken, without the battery. So it's really lightweight. Even with all that protection and all that TPU, it's still under 500 grams. And it has a lot of power. So especially if you don't put an action camera on this drone, it is a real beast. But even if you put a heavy GoPro on it or any other action camera, it's still very capable, very smooth, but you can definitely feel the weight a little bit more. And that's something that it's now a little bit more difficult for me to accept because I'm that used to the O3 Air unit and the quality that it brings. So for now, this is probably the setup that I'll be using for FPV, and I'm quite happy with it. Now, as the drone has a ton of different configurations, whether you want to choose the dead cat or the True X configuration, whether you want to use the TBS Nano RX receiver or ELRS, or even no receiver at all if you want to use the DJI FPV controller 2. I'm going to put a link in the description so you can see the exact price depending on your needs, because like I said, you have tons of different options, you have tons of different accessories that you can add. But like I said, this is going to be the #1 choice that I'll be recommending to anyone looking to buy a ready-to-fly drone with the O3 Air unit inside, because of how everything just works together. Everything is super well mounted, everything is super well secured inside. It's not rattling around, it's not wobbling, everything is super solid, especially the camera, which is going to be a problem for many people that are building their own drone. If you don't mount this camera properly, you will experience some vibrations in your footage when looking at it from the SD card of the Air unit. You're not going to see them in the goggles, but they will be there on the Air unit SD card if you don't install it properly. Here you don't have that problem because the camera is so well mounted and it's soft mounted, so it doesn't move around and there are no vibrations going through it, which is not going to ruin your footage in the end. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. This is Mike from Drone Supremacy. Take care, everyone, and I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao. This is the iFlight Nazgul Evoque F5D V2 6S HD with the O3 Air unit from DJI, and